Well, welcome to the Water Valley Schoolhouse. We're out here at the Bowen Meadow Ranch, and the schoolhouse was the last remaining building to mark the Water Valley townsite. That townsite was located about 7.5 miles northeast of Chivington and was used as a schoolhouse until about the 1930s. And that schoolhouse sat at that original location until the 1980s, until it was purchased by a guy named Clarence Woke, who moved it to Sheridan Lake and used it as part of a roadside history park. And then it sat there at Sheridan Lake from the 1980s until November of 2016, when Dad was able to make a purchase for it and move it to the Bowen Meadow Ranch. And he's restored it, and you're going to see what it looks like here in just a little bit. And it looks like what that would have looked like in that time frame. And you're going to see a picture of some teachers that were out there, and they met up at the Water Valley town site in the 1960s for a photograph. And interestingly, two of those teachers ended up teaching Dad later on at Eads School. One was his second grade teacher, and one was his junior high school teacher. And well, there's going to be a link below. You can click to learn more about the Water Valley Schoolhouse, and there's some more information about those teachers, who they were, who's all named in the picture. So make sure to click on that link and read more about it. The schoolhouse was moved in November of 2016, moved by DeWitt's Excavating. They moved it to the ranch from the Sheridan Lake location, where it had been used as that roadside history park. And before DeWitt Excavating had moved it, Camp and Corral had gone out there to lay out a slab. And you'll see a photo with the late Chris Corral, and Warren Camp is out there too, and they were out there putting that slab down.
A few years ago, my son, TJ Harbert, and his boy JoJo, and my daughter Courtney, we came up and we helped Chuck weld this fence together. And I remember thinking that the way that people had designed this fence back then was this post right here. There was a triangle, and that triangle is of metal, and it's buried under the ground, but it helps support where you cannot basically push the fence over. And I thought, oh my gosh, it was just a simple device, but someone obviously thought this out real well. But we came in and we leveled things and put things down, but just technology from year to year, and is amazing. And just this corner post, to me, it's very Victorian. I love the design, but you don't see fences like this anymore. And to me, it's just we're kind of missing the beauty sometimes in today's world, in my opinion. But you know, the design, people went to a lot of work, and especially back then, this metal right here has holes in it, and each one of these bars, 1, 2, 3 holes, and they have to fit in there perfectly. And you can see that the fence is just absolutely square. But before we put it in, you could rock that fence back and forth. But once we put it in place, voila, there it is. And it would take a lot to steamboat this thing.
You can see this pump out here at the Water Valley Schoolhouse at Bowen Meadow Ranch. And it's been out here since Dad moved the schoolhouse in 2016, in November of that year. And you might recognize this pump from one of our short films. And here comes Tim. Tim was actually in the short film, and he was actually working the pump in that. You probably recognize him from that short film we did on the Water Valley Schoolhouse. And we'll have a link to that video in this blog below. Welcome to the inside of the Water Valley Schoolhouse. We're just going to show you guys around a little bit. So, you've seen the schoolhouse as part of short films and photos, but now you're getting a kind of an inside look of just the schoolhouse itself. And so here we are at the schoolhouse. You can see we've got the blackboard slate there with Water Valley School written on it, and Joe's grandson Joey had written his name on here years ago, and we've left it there. And he was in here and wrote his name on the slate blackboard, and that would be period of the time they would have been using this as a schoolhouse. And you'll see that we have a 48 star flag in here. And you'll see, and over the time since Dad has moved the schoolhouse out here in 2016, he's added a lot to it to really give that schoolhouse vibe. He's got a bunch of school desks in here, period school desks, all with, they've got slate chalkboards that would be period, that's made of slate, that would have been like what the students used in at the schoolhouse. You see these school desks and just some things he started adding just almost immediately after he moved it out here in 2016. He started adding these school desks, and another piece he added is right up here by the front, and you'll see that stove. And that stove was added on a vacation to Branson, Missouri, and they had stopped in Wichita, Kansas and bought this stove, and they'd had some guests with them, but it was talked about, well, we'll just pick it up on the way back through. And Dad was thinking, well, no, what if something happens and they're closed or we can't get it on the way back through? So they loaded this stove up and put it in the back of their car, and it rode with them from Wichita to Branson and all around Branson while they were on vacation, and then from Branson back to Lamar, and then Lamar back out here to the schoolhouse. And so that was then added here to the schoolhouse, and it's an actually functioning, stove that heats up really well, and it keeps the schoolhouse really warm on cold days. You can see like the lard buckets there, and that would have been like what they would have brought their lunches to school in. And so he's added a small collection of those that he's added here to the schoolhouse, and a few he just added just today. They're brand new to the schoolhouse. And then above those, you can see some of those tin cups that they would have gotten water with. And it would have been something like that they would have used here at the schoolhouse. This piece here, on top of here, they would have kept it's made for holding like a bowl and pitcher. So kids can come in here and wash their hands. And you'll see some links below to some videos we did here at the schoolhouse. One was about a letter that Sand Creek soldier James Carr wrote, looking back on when he was out at Sand Creek and he found his friend Robert McFarland dead on the battlefield. That he wrote a letter about that, and we made a short film about that featuring Butch Kelly here, and we kind of just reimagined this space and turned the schoolhouse, made it more look like James Carr's house instead of a schoolhouse. And where that organ is sitting, that was where James Carr's desk was, and where he sat and wrote that letter. And you'll see a link below. You can go watch that video. And also in here in the schoolhouse, we did a short film on the Water Valley Schoolhouse that was used as a school and used for church services. And we had students in here. We had, the students say the Pledge of Allegiance, and they had the church scene singing a couple old hymns and Joe preaching to the congregation. And this was used as for church services back, we know at least in 1914, and church services at that time were moved from Brandon to the Water Valley Schoolhouse. And it's interesting because the schoolhouse, had it sat at the original location, had never moved, it would have burned down in a fire a few years ago. And this building would not be standing had it just sat at that original location. Just a few years ago, a fire burned, and it started close to Lamar and just kept burning and making its way north and that way towards what would have been the Water Valley townsite location. And it ended up hitting a wheat field, and the fire burned out. But the schoolhouse wouldn't have survived had it stayed at that original location. So this is just kind of a brief overview of the schoolhouse. So enjoy looking at the links and reading more about it and looking at pictures. And I just hope you enjoy kind of a behind the scenes look at the Water Valley Schoolhouse.